Ladies and gentlemen.
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 Can I please have your attention?
Right now, showtime. Are you ready? Are you ready for start time?
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
We are the tribe of good.
It's a kind of magic. It's a kind of magic.
My mommy is a babe. Babe power.
Forget about the world now, cold it might seem. Forget about Brexit and COVID-19. Your life's not always a bowl of ice cream, but no matter, it's Sasha, the soul of ice cream.
Hi. You know, a lot of people are asking themselves, what is my life like right now? Am I truly happy? Do I really love my spouse, my kids, my house? Am I fulfilled sexually or creatively? Or am I just clawing my way through the years in the hope that the afterlife will offer what this life cannot?
Intuition. Yes, that's right. Intuition with me. Hello, how are we doing? Sasha here. Good evening, good day, whatever time of the day or night it is that you are watching or listening. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for locking into me. So this is my channel. All kinds of crazy things happen on my channel and life is incredibly overwhelming, but I am recording this today on Truth Tuesday. The date is Tuesday the 8th of October in the crazy mad world that we are living in. And I am talking right now about the Essex Boys case. So for those of you that don't know what I mean by the Essex Boys case, they weren't even Essex Boys, they were Essex men. They were no longer boys, they were not children. But in 1995, early December 1995, 3 Essex lads got shot dead in a Range Rover. This was 3 weeks after the tragic death of a young, just turned 18-year-old called Aaliyah Betts, who was the daughter of an ex-Met police officer. Now, I stress that he was an ex-Met police officer at that point, but I think he was only in his 40s. But he was no longer a Met police officer, and his name was Paul Betts, and he was the father of Leah Betts, who was said to have died from water intoxication after having drunk, I think it's something like 9 litres of water, after having taken 1 ecstasy apple pill at her stepmother and father's house, not far from Rettendam. And she dropped into a coma 4 hours after taking that pill, allegedly, or so it is said. And then she never regained consciousness. The next day it was spread across the news of the world, and there was the hunt on for the dealers of the ecstasy that had put this young girl in a coma. Now, you can see that it's all starting to get very sensational. Yes, that's right. And sensationalism is the name of the game of the media. And when there are things that seem to be not quite right and not seeming to play out as you would think they were, normally it is because that is how it has been designed. And this is where we are at. So we are talking about deaths that happened in 1995. We are now in 2024. We are coming up for it won't be long, what is it, a year till the 30th anniversary. And the truth has not yet been told. And this is quite clear, and this is why there's so much speculation, so many people talking about it. So many films, so many books, so many conversations, Facebook groups, all kinds of people talking about this. Now, so why am I talking about it? Why the hell am I talking about this particular case? Well, it comes close to home for me, very, very, very close to home, because I was the barmaid, the blonde barmaid on the top bar at Raquel's in 1995 when this all kicked off, November 95. I had been working at Raquel's for 6 months, and I was working on the top bar with my best friend at the time, who was also my lodger, my mate Cal. Brunette and blonde, we were working on that bar, and there was an awful lot of fun had by us at times, but there was a lot to be said about Raquel's and a lot to be understood about Raquel's and who was running Raquel's. If you don't know what Raquel's is, then Raquel's is the club that was right in the middle of Basildon Town Square, Basildon in Essex, and this was a hotbed of drug dealing in 1995, and it was a very young club, unfortunately, and when I look back I understand why. And this club was run, the head doorman was a chap, a big chap called Bernard O'Mahony. But I knew him back then as Bernie King. He is one of the characters in this scenario that is still prevalent, and is still about, and still seems to be trying to silence people and shut people up. And people that try to silence and shut people up, they do it for a reason. What reason is to be discovered and uncovered. That's what I would like to say. So, yes, back to where we are. So, back then he was known as Bernie King. He was running the door, and he was a very prevalent character at Raquel's. Everybody knew that he kind of ran the shop, and if he said jump, if he said dance, if he said do things, then you kind of had to. Otherwise, you could be in trouble, and he was mean and all of those kind of things. Anyway, so the firm were the people running the doors, and there was also other criminal networks that were drug dealing. And the 3 lads that got shot dead in the Range Rover were drug dealers, amongst being sons and fathers, I believe, some of them, and Essex lads and kids from the care system and things like this. So as you can see, I'm not excusing anything of anybody, but there are reasons, causes and reasons for why people end up on the wrong side of wrong. I believe that Craig Rolfe was born in Holloway Prison in London. So you can see that these kind of outcomes of where things have gone very, very wrong, they continue to go wrong until things are resolved. And these 3 lads, a couple of them were in their mid-30s, and the other one was in his mid-20s when they died. But they had been engaged in an awful lot of violence, an awful lot of wrongdoing, an awful lot of criminal activity, and this isn't just this isn't like, a few mates selling pills to their mates. It's a long way from that. And this is why and where it had all gone very, very wrong. And the manipulation on the underground and the dark criminal networks that work on the underground, everything is about sex and drugs and money and power and status and faces. It's all about being a face and all of this kind of thing. And so this is what it is all about. I was a 21-year-old Essex girl living in Basildon. I'm originally born and bred from Essex. I'm really originally from Rayleigh in Essex, and I've been stomping around Southend-on-Sea right the way through my teenage. I used to work in Keddy's shoe department and Lillian Skinner's shoe department in the Royals, for all of those that know Southend-on-Sea. And I used to stomp around Southend seafront and have lots of fun in my younger days. And it really, truly was, for me, good-hearted, clean fun growing up. I did not do any drugs until I was 21 years old. But I was exposed to an awful lot of alcohol, and that is a drug. So, and alcohol was very, very prevalent in my life and in my existence and in my upbringing. In fact, I was kind of brought up in pubs, and I spent most of my time in pubs when I was younger. Pubs of Essex with my mother and my stepfather, who loved a drink and still do, I believe. So anybody that knows me knows that I like to party and I love to have a good time. I am a huge, huge music lover and have been working in the music industry for the last 25 years, full time. I love to party. I love a good time. I love freedom of expression. I love people to let go, express themselves, all of those things. However, these things can go very wrong if we are not responsible with our partying. And unfortunately, there are a lot of bad people about, and the older you get, the more you realise how these bad people are kind of prowling around and predatoring around. And I was a 21-year-old blonde girl from Essex. I hit puberty pretty early and I always had big boobs, was small and all of that kind of thing. So I was kind of, got some kind of hair there. I was kind of like fair game, maybe, as you could say. But also I had grown up having to be a tough lass, shall we say. And therefore I would give as good as I get, and I was not easy game for anybody, anyone. And really since a very, very early age, even at the age of 7, I was like, no, and no, and I will fight you. So I was a feisty one, like my husband would say. I was a feisty one. I was always a feisty one. I am still fairly feisty, but my fire does protect me. My fire is something I've had to control. It can get the better of me. It can get me into trouble, but it has also protected me in many, many, many ways. So I thank myself for my fire and my soul and my intuition. Anyway, as a young girl growing up, when I left home at 16 years old, by the time I was working in Rackels at 21 years old, I had a boyfriend who I'd been going out with for a while, and thankfully he was protecting me. Now I look back, and I was looking after him and he was looking after me, and we had each other's back. And so shout out to my ex-boyfriend, who's still one of my good mates, and I know many people out there in Essex will know him. But I'm not going to say his name at the moment because I choose not to. Anyway, those that know. But fortunately, my boyfriend was pretty handy and didn't take no shit from nobody and didn't let anybody disrespect me, disrespect him, disrespect his mother, disrespect his sister. Sometimes, yes, that did get him into trouble, and that was a kind of ongoing battle. Especially when he was a really, really good-looking young skater kid, 17 years old, blonde, gorgeous, and many people were trying to groom him. And when I spoke to him recently, he was like, yeah, everyone was trying to groom me. And he actually squared up to the head doorman at Rackels because he weren't taking no shit from him. He didn't give absolutely was just not in any way scared, and never is and still isn't. And he was like, yeah, he's just a grass and a blah, and you know, and he knows what he is. Anyway, he is one of the characters that is still prevalent in this, and I am passionate about the truth as a whole. And when I came back into this story, because I kind of ducked out, well, I didn't really know anybody was still talking about it for about 25 years. I kind of seen the rise of the Foot Soldier films advertised a little bit, but I really hadn't taken any interest. I'd been working hardcore in the dance music industry, really, really busy, trying to build a business, doing all of those things. So I hadn't really taken any interest into it or given it any time. And I just have one book, the Essex Boys book, that's sitting on my bookshelf behind me. And then I was contacted by my old mate, the other barmaid, who had been contacted by the Sky One documentary team for Expectation Factual, being the actual production team that were doing the Essex murders. And that came out on Sky One and Now TV not so long ago. And I did 2 days of recording with them, and they cut everything out. And that was interesting as to why they cut everything out. And that really kind of highlighted some things. Anyway, when that was coming out, I was contacted by some people that used to go to Raquel's, and some regulars and some old faces, and people started to pop out the woodwork. And this really kind of highlighted to me. And they were like, oh yeah, there's all these Facebook groups. I was like, oh, wicked. And they like, come and say hello. So I was like, oh, okay. So I went into Essex Boys The Truth and Essex Boys... I can't remember each name of them. Anyway, there's a couple of major groups, the biggest ones. And I went in, said hello, and everybody was really nice. And I was like, yeah, come and chat. And then immediately the old head doorman from Raquel's, who we know as Bernie, and he is very prevalent doing podcasts and things, and he has been making an awful lot of noise and money from this whole story, and basically made a career out of it. Now that is up to him, but making a career out of things that are not always true and just manipulating the story and the narrative for your own gains and means is not something that I agree with at all, and so I will call it out at all times. And so that is what I continue to do. He contacted me, and I have a first podcast that I did on the Essex Boys stuff that said about him bullying, basically, and it was very kind of unpleasant, and he slid into my DMs, then started contacting my husband, then started contacting me on email and all of this kind of thing. It was all kind of really very untoward and not the kind of pleasant, hi, how you doing,